What channel is this?
A crisp morning in February 2013. A teenager from northern China wakes up to fervent rapping on his door. Let's call him Doug. Doug is in his final year of high school.
So previous night, me and my parents will have a pretty big fight.
They'd had the same fight a million times already, about what university Doug was going to go to and what career option he was going to pursue, about why he was more interested in drumming than in studying. It was heated, and everyone went to bed angry. But even when Doug's parents are angry, they don't ever knock this way. Blurry-eyed, he opens the door and sees two strange men dressed in
organ
ordinary clothes.
harvesters.
They claim they are police. They're saying, okay, do you know this person? Blah, 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 which is a name I never heard of. He said he is in trouble. He got picked up yesterday. And he said, you are his culprit, like a partner in crimes. And they said I was required to go with them to assist in some investigation.
Doug has no idea what they're talking about. He's starting to panic a little because
Doug?
he's used the VPN to access YouTube to watch drumming tutorials. They take him to their car.
No.
Doug is surprised they're driving a regular Jeep, not an official police car.
VPN.
The men explain that they did this on purpose to save him the embarrassment of being seen being taken away by the police. So Doug gets in the car. But when they start driving, they go right past the local police station. 30 minutes later, in another part of the city, they pull into an enclosed compound with a tall green gate. Doug has the sinking feeling that the men were lying. They aren't police at all. He feels he won't leave this compound for quite a while. It's a special place for kids with behavioral problems, one of many across the country, each with their own ever more cruel practices to force teenagers into obedience. What exactly is happening at these schools? How are they allowed to exist? And what does World of Warcraft have to do with it all?
They make them farm gold.
Wait. I think he's
how
on
they pay for the
something.
fucking operation. Look, it says inside China's torture camps for teens, they make them farm gold.
I think he's on to something.
Why is it cringe? That is perfectly reasonable to think that.
China in the early aughts. A windowless room underground,
And so
dark,
Jason.
except for the flickering of screens. It smells like cigarettes, instant noodles, and teenage boys. Keyboards clack, computers whir. There's occasional yelling, but nobody's arguing. Everyone is in their own world. For many across the country, this place, the Internet Cafe or Wangba, is home away from home. As the country grows wealthier, internet usage increases dramatically, especially among the young. Teenagers spend more and more time in 24-hour Wangba, and their parents, who were raised before the country's tech revolution.
Guys, I already know. I already knew that farming gold was a thing in China, right? But then, I hired some guy, chat, in the WoW hardcore, to run me through ZG. It's like a raid, and he would kill all the ads. You remember this guy that I hired? He would run the entire raid and kill all the mobs by himself, all the tigers, right? Right? He's getting barely any gold doing the run, but he does it for me, for XP, for money, right? And the payment was like $3 for an hour.
Just don't get the appeal. How could
Dude, I would sit there for 3 hours and he's like, oh,
World of Warcraft
time to refresh your payment.
School,
it's like $11.50.
Parents are growing seriously worried. China is an increasingly competitive society. Many see good grades as the only ticket to a successful future. And the internet makes more and more negative headlines in the country. Teenagers setting a deadly fire to an internet cafe for being denied entry. Teens apparently dying of exhaustion after 20-hour sessions.
I tipped him
The
and
moral
he
panic
never
over
said
the
thank you.
dangers of the internet is emerging. In 2005, a Beijing judge
very sad.
states that over 90% of crimes committed by under 18s were because of the internet. A pretty wild guess, considering that at that point only 10% of the nation is even online. By 2006, the Central Committee of the Communist Youth League proclaims that internet addiction is a severe social problem that could threaten the nation's future. The government claims that internet addiction is now the #1 public health threat to its teenage population. Something must be done.
That is actually true.
Now that it's not 2006, we're all
I
aware
guess.
that knowing your way around a computer won't hurt your career prospects. And the internet offers countless ways to learn new skills. One
Oh.
platform we can recommend in particular is Brilliant. With the app, you by clicking the link fast
Dude,
with
it's always the
annual
same
premium
5
subscription.
companies
Interesting
that
video though. I enjoyed
the
this video.
CCP swoops in
add
fast
every
with
single
harsh
video.
measures. Teens are banned from
We're not
internet
clicking on your
cafes, which
shit,
are
man.
periodically
I'm
raided
not
by
buying
the police. So
your
unregistered
stupid
cafes crop up,
scam
known
program,
as Dark
bitch.
Wamba. The government tries implementing controls that kick kids off of games when they've played too long. But teenagers are crafty and can often find ways around restrictions. A bigger, more comprehensive approach is needed. In 2008, internet addiction, or Wang Yin, officially becomes a clinical disorder. For years, China was the only country to pathologize internet usage in this way. The official consequences of this disorder are listed as a loss of control over time spent online, a lack of friends, bad grades, and eventually murder or suicide. But in practice, its status as a disorder doesn't mean it's diagnosed with much scientific rigor. Internet addiction is not measured by the hard number of hours kids spend online, for example. Symptoms like depression, fainting, and anorexia are all enough to get a kid a diagnosis. If your parents don't like who you're dating, you too could be diagnosed as an internet addict. Really, anything socially undesirable might fall under the internet addiction umbrella. In this climate, the state-run broadcaster CCTV releases a bombshell documentary, Fighting the Internet Demon, Who Turned Our Geniuses into Beasts.
弗洛伊德的精神分析法为他提供
It condemns online games like World of Warcraft as digital heroin. It aims to raise awareness about internet addiction as a widespread social problem. And most importantly, it glorifies the virtues of a very particular kind of treatment. Military-style boot camps that will rehabilitate kids with a tough love combo of therapy, medication, and physical training. The first camp was set up in 2006 near Beijing by a famed colonel
Chat.
in the People's Liberation.
Guys. I'm not gonna make a political statement about this, okay, chat? But if this was the US, they would call this Chinese spyware made to corrupt everybody's brains and brainwashing. Guys, I like that they take accountability and they blame the disease and the fact that people play too many games, and they don't say, well, World of Warcraft is a Blizzard spyware, American Western infiltration of spy tech. Like, dude,
Liberation
what? I'm
Tao
just saying. I'm just like,
Tao Run is celebrated for his work in rehabilitating drug addicts at
They do.
similar boot camps.
Of course they do. They're from China, man. Haven't you heard the news?
For Tao,
Haven't you heard the-
internet is just another drug. He's quoted in the New York
The,
Times at the
the,
time.
the
saying, "The
brainwash
effects are the
Chinese
same. Some addicts
new in the
drop out
news.
of school,
Haven't you
some
heard
mug
this in the
people for
news,
money,
man?
steal and sell their
The
families'
the
things
Chinese,
to keep playing
they're all
games.
brainwashed.
Some end up
The
themselves
government
because they feel
brainwashed the
life has no
Chinese to
point.
be
With
antagonists
so much
towards us
fear-mongering
in
rhetoric
specific.
floating
That's why they
around,
put the spy
parents across
programs
China
in our
are
computers.
clutching their pearls. The internet really is a demon turning their geniuses into beasts. But this kindly colonel, who had such great results in rehabilitating drug addicts, is fortunately here to help. The boot camps become a popular answer to parents at their wits' end. Sometimes they are characterized as schools, centers, or clinics as well, depending on their approach. But in either case, they are mainly for the wealthy. The majority are very expensive for the average Chinese person, And being relatively cheap to run, they are also highly lucrative.
Wait, price to run? Wait,
The
I think I'm actually right
majority
about
have
this
been
chat.
opened up by former Chinese army officers. The Fighting the Internet Demon documentary praises one facility in particular, in the Shandong district in eastern China. It's run by a psychiatrist named Yang Yongxin, who proclaims he's on a holy crusade to cure internet addiction. He's been honored with a special grant from the state government for his unusually effective methods. Many people call him Uncle Yang, out of gratitude and affection for his services and dedication. But in some circles, perhaps those who've spent time with him,
This guy plays Pally.
good old Uncle Yang is known as a sadistic mass torturer. Back in 2013, Duck finds himself in an enclosed compound. Officially, Duck's camp is called a vocational school.
I was required to partake in the formal routine, which is waking up in 7 a.m. There's morning exercise, which is like jogging, marching pace around the schoolyard, which is kind of like a prison.
Oh, they do that at the Walmart.
Boot camp / private run juvenile correction facility / prison in disguise.
Where can I sign up?
At these places, internet addiction often acts as a type of catch-all umbrella for undesired behaviors.
Guys, my local Walmart, every day I would take the bus to go to school, and after the employees, they had to start the day out of the Walmart, and they would do laps around the Walmart. Not kidding.
Behaviors these institutions
Real?
aim to correct. All across China, parents fed up with their kids will orchestrate kidnappings and deliver
there has
them to
to
drill
be someone
sergeants
in the
and
chat
dodgy
that works at
psychologists. Luckily, Duck is
One of
not
the
in the
brokies.
care of Uncle Yang. He'll never set foot in room 13. But that doesn't mean this new school of his won't scar him for life.
And they explained to me, you're here because your parents think you are on the edge, that you need to be sent here to correct your behavior.
He doesn't know how to feel about the fact that his parents sent him here. Are their family problems really grounds for getting locked up?
I feel angry, I feel helpless, and I wanted to run, but at that point I was still shocked and too confused to know what's going on. I thought, like, where is this place? Why am I here? I asked them, can I leave? They said, you're not free to leave, and don't even try to run, because when you try, we will tackle you down, and you will be watched 24/7. And I was like, okay, I don't want to suffer any physical damages, so I just complied to whatever they said. I just followed exactly what they told me.
Duck describes the school as 5 stories high, barricaded by a tall green gate. The compound is surrounded by a 3-meter wall topped with iron wire. Inside the facility, Duck quickly becomes absorbed into the grueling, repetitive activities. While we couldn't independently verify all of the details of his particular camp and experiences there, his account is very similar to the many testimonies of other former detainees of similar camps.
Well, so don't
Duck
farm gold,
describes an ongoing cycle of military-style drills, mandatory therapy, and pointless lessons where the teacher would just hit play on the VCR. Like any prison, the food is terrible. And as Duck describes it, hygiene standards are also questionable. Though the detainees are constantly doing exercise, they're only permitted 1 shower per week. He has no contact with his family, his friends, or the outside world in general. Duck is surprised that not everyone is a teenager. Some,
believe it or not, 3 showers per week is the recommended amount, or nearly. You shouldn't wash every day on paper. Okay?
True.
It's not good for your skin. It's not good for your body. It's not good.
are as young as 6. A few are in their mid-30s. Those who aren't minors were, according to Duck, also delivered by an abduction organized by their families and the school and find themselves incarcerated for dubious reasons. This happens at other facilities too. Duck
Imagine
quickly
living
discovers
here, but
there's a
still
pecking
fumbling
order
Madison
amongst the
beer.
detainees.
Students that's been there longer, who is more acquainted with the rules,
You're
could
French.
enforce some kind of discipline on other students. And the caretaker would turn a blind eye on what is actually happening. So there is a lot of bullying, there's a lot of physical abuses happening, especially when you are new there. They will try to discipline you.
He says that guards would encourage kids to physically keep each other in line. At one point, an older detainee struggles to keep up with the demands of the drills. As punishment, the caretakers forced other students to drag him around while running. There are ways you can gain approval from the guards, however.
There are Stockholm syndromes. So everybody is trying to win the favor of the caretaker just in exchange for better conditions. For example, you get certain privileges. You can get more food when you're at the canteen. You get to skip the regular routine to help out in the kitchen. Just like that. So at a certain point, there's one guy who is, I think he started this trend by giving the caretaker like a back massage. So everybody just kind of follows him. Like, hey, would you like a massage? We can give you that.
Hold on.
Unfortunately, I was one of the followers of this trend.
Yo, Aiden,
The overall
I can't talk. I'm
experience
right now.
was
Give me a
deeply
minute. I'll call you back, yeah?
traumatizing, but Duck sees some
Yeah, go back,
merits
Simon.
in it.
I was there mainly because of my disputes between me and my parents. So I was lucky to got a very experienced therapist assigned to me. So we have in-depth exchange. It helped a lot. I think that was the only part that helped.
Overall, he considers himself lucky, if in
you
a
guys
cynical
fucking-
way.
oh, man.
His experience was brutal. Kids were beaten up in front of him, psychologically abused by former military guards/caretakers. He was locked up without contact to the outside world for 4 months against his will, none of his friends even knowing what happened to him. But of all these lucrative, poorly regulated camps that sprang up so quickly,
Man, you guys know
his
that it was fake.
way less extreme than others. Especially compared to what Uncle Yang was up to.
Huh?
XQC sus.
The psychologist Yang Yongxin, good old Uncle Yang, is claimed to have been concerned with the effects of internet addiction as far back as 1999. Back then, computers were rare in China.
Eggs of Empire!
Uncle Yang's son
52
was
months
very
to this
excited
one.
to have this
I
new
guess.
toy that not everyone else
XQCL.
had. But then his son started spending more hours playing games than studying. It grew into a problem, and for Uncle Yang, it was clearly something that needed psychiatric support. He started lecturing about the dangers of the internet, which resonated with more and more parents as more and more of their teens got online. In 2006, Uncle Yang was granted a wing at
My
his
brain
local
just
hospital
glitched.
to set up the first clinical treatment center for internet addiction. In contrast to Tao Ran's focus on military-inspired discipline, Uncle Yang's
Yu Yin
approach
Yang Jing
emphasized medication. He developed a psychiatric treatment that he called brain waking. Both
W.
approaches were generally viewed favorably at the time, and both boasted very high success rates. Fighting the internet demon opens with the praise that Uncle Yang's methods were unusually effective. It claims that even the most addicted and rebellious teens would emerge from this treatment room completely cured and apologize to their parents. And for the parents who missed the documentary, there were also frequent commercials running on TV that sang the clinic's praises.
What type of
By
medication, though?
2009,
Did they
nearly
not say?
3,000 young people were treated with good old Uncle Yang's
seems like a
brain-waking
nice guy
method.
aware.
First, the patients are forcibly delivered or tricked into the center. Then, their parents are prompted to sign an agreement that relinquishes guardianship for the duration of the treatment. A typical treatment lasts 4 months, costing nearly $900 per month. The average monthly salary in China at the time is around $400. That plus high penalties if patients run away or if parents decide to end the treatment before Uncle Yang proclaims the patient as cured. Brain waking consists of a total detox from the internet, morning lessons, exercise in the afternoon, and a combination of antidepressants, sedatives, and traditional Chinese medicine. The morning lessons are essentially public humiliation sessions, where the patients are collectively criticized to the soundtrack of dramatic music and their sobbing parents. All of that, and frequent trips to Room 13. Room 13 is where the patients are administered Uncle Yang's very special treatment that made him famous. Only patients are allowed in, no parents. The patients are told that if they tell anyone about the method, the treatment won't work and Uncle Yang will have to start over. With the calm conviction of a man who believes he's fighting a holy crusade, Uncle Yang attaches electrodes to the patient's hands and temples. It doesn't matter that he's not licensed to administer electroshocks. He's fighting the good fight.
Wait, actually?
The children's minds are unclear, so he needs to use microcurrents to clear them. A mouthguard is inserted to prevent the patient from biting off their tongue. Then, a skull-rattling shockwave of electricity is shot through the electrodes for several minutes at a time, over the course of about 30 minutes.
What?
What does that even do though? What?
In the rare, last resort cases that electroconvulsive therapy is still used nowadays, a shockwave is usually sent for just a few milliseconds, or maximum 1 minute. The patient is under general anesthesia and shouldn't feel any discomfort. Not so in the care of Uncle Yang. Here, the pain is part of the treatment, and the shockwaves are often several minutes long. Former patients describe the pain as unimaginable, like a needle inserted into the brain, but far, far worse. Sometimes a shock was said to leave burns. One teenager, Teng Fei, reported to The Guardian that he was given ECT dozens of times in 6 or 7 sessions over the course of just over a month. When he tried to escape Room 13, he was given another 30-minute round of shocks. Teng Fei told his parents about the ECT, who promptly removed him from Uncle Yang's treatment center. They were fined, but glad to have their son out of the clutches of a mad doctor. Other parents were reportedly also concerned with the methods used, but allowed...
Chat, what if you're wearing headphones, chat, and there's like a short circuit in the fucking headphones, whatever, chat? Aren't you getting zapped directly in your brain?
No. Because
like that?
you don't touch the
treatment to
wires,
continue,
man.
so that their children would be released more quickly.
You don't touch the wires.
The more you complied with Uncle Yang's methods and admitted you were wrong and sorry, the sooner you would be considered cured. All Teng Fei wanted was revenge on Uncle Yang. He went online and wrote about his experiences and connected with other victims. In these circles, Uncle Yang became known as the Monster Killer. The online outcry spread fast. Initially, the Chinese World of Warcraft community was in uproar. A wildly popular protest machinima was released, which also criticized censorship and narratives of internet addiction in China at large. Criticism of Uncle Yang then quickly made it to mainstream media. Public perception of his methods shifted and started to be deemed excessive. In July of 2009, China banned electroshock therapy for internet addicts. But that didn't stop Uncle Yang. He skirted the new law by slightly adjusting his methods.
Chat, are they even targeting some part of the brain, or are they just zapping the brain like flat out?
He claimed it was not the same as ECT and rebranded it as electronic acupuncture. And despite the bad press, many desperate parents kept sending their kids to him. Up through 2016, he had treated around 6,000 patients. The whole time, Room 13 reportedly was still in operation. Then, it finally, officially closed. We could not find out what Uncle Yang is up to today.
It's probably because they're WoW players. It should have been the League players. Okay, I'm just kidding, sorry.
By 2017,
that was
hundreds of internet addiction boot camps were in operation all over the country. By that time, it was widely known that it's not just Uncle Yang's facility that is abusive. Weibo users were in outrage over the widespread abuse. How could these camps still be open? How could parents still send their kids there despite the onslaught of bad press? There were beatings, suicides, and reports of kids ordered to lie on their stomachs all night in snow. A 19-year-old woman died when her treatment consisted of being lifted and dropped. In one famous case, a child died just 2 days after being checked into a camp that promised gentler approaches than the more notorious camps. The boy's body was covered in bruises, and an autopsy confirmed more than 20 external injuries and several internal ones. The exact cause of death was never determined, but the camp was shut down shortly after. The nation was shocked even more when a 16-year-old girl tied her mother to a chair and let her starve, as revenge for placing her in one of the camps. One camp came under fire when former detainees revealed that children were repeatedly placed in 10-day solitary confinement. The camp was shut down and the founder was jailed. Solitary confinement is in violation of the China-ratified UN Charter Against Torture. But some camps were not condemned for this practice, most notably the first, Tao Ran's, a camp that was funded by the government. In the 2013 documentary Web Junkie, Tao Ran's staff is filmed openly discussing the merits of placing children in solitary confinement.
I mean, don't trust US media.
In fairness to China, it's not the only country with rehabilitation camps that function more like prisons with widespread abuse and torture. Most notably, the troubled teen industry in the United States is alive and flourishing, despite an ongoing media frenzy around its horrific practices. These are alleged to include beatings, starvation, and solitary confinement. But a key difference is that in China, the camps have stronger ties to the government and military. Duck is in no doubt that the CCP was well aware of how his school operated.
Just for my own safety and well-being, I don't think I can make any commentary about CCP itself, but what I can tell you is that almost everywhere, in every education facility, there's gotta be a party branch. Any major university, any primary school is a
Brian Raffay video. If you believe anything in the video, you're dumb.
Sector.
Okay, then don't believe anything then.
A 2022 report in Sixth Tone, a state-owned Chinese newspaper, asserts that abuse...
So what you're saying is, and it would mean that every singular thing in this video is fake, right? I think sometimes you can make a kind of a risky guess, if you want, and say there's probably some validity to this based on the amount of articles and the amount of reports about so maybe it's not all true, but you can probably say, you know what, this probably happened. There's a good chance this happened. Maybe not as much or as bad. That would be on the low scale of risk, but still within the confines of it. You know,
some of the most notorious camps simply changed names or addresses and continue to operate. The article claims that after a while, the controversies around abuse were less and less in the media, almost like people wanted to forget about this ugly chapter in recent history. But as memories of the camp's abusive practices started to fade, the internet is once again the scapegoat for any socially undesirable behavior. Whatever is really going on in these camps today, it is clear that China is still very concerned with the effect of the internet on its young population. And Tao Ran continues to be the go-to guru for all things regarding internet addiction. In fact, he's starting to publish scientific papers that are gaining traction in the United States and other countries.
Gotcha.
Former detainees like Duck are still grappling with their experiences. Some are turning their trauma into art. The 2020 show Crossfire is partly based on the clinics and went viral in China, gaining 100 million views in just 4 days. There's a video game called Breakout 13, where you're trapped in Uncle Yang's clinic. And finally, the recent virtual reality film Diagnosia takes you inside the memories of a former detainee.
I'm playing this shit. I don't want to get fucking zapped, brother. What the heck? Okay, well, let me just... Because the sun is loud today, it's kind of burning my eardrums.
Yeah, true. That's every day, that's why I have my things closed.
Oh, what else we got today, boys and girls?
Well, it doesn't matter, because, well, even if the sun is loud, the people around me, the neighbors, are also fucking loud, and they use power tools, and they scream loud every day. They talk loud. They come into your room unannounced. They spy on you. They listen, right? They look through the cracks in my windows. They look through the cracks in my doorway. I need to get away from these people. I have to get away from these people, or get them away from me. Because they're so loud, man.